Hi, I'm Jerome Hoberman. I'm the music director of the Hong Kong Bach Choir and Orchestra, and we'll be performing the Bach Mass in B minor at the Hong Kong Cultural Center Concert Hall on Tuesday, December 7th, in just a few weeks. And I'm sitting here with mezzo-soprano Samantha Chong and violinist Leslie Yang, who are integral parts of this performance.
Hello, my name is Samantha Chong. I'm a mezzo-soprano. My first concert with the Hong Kong Bach Choir was back in 2015. It was the Max Reger Requiem. And then after that, over the years, we've done a number of concerts together, including Rossini's and Beethoven, Missa Solemnis, and many more. And this time, we are doing Bach's B minor Mass, and I'll be singing the alto part and also the second soprano line.
Hi, my name's Leslie, and I've known Jerry Hoberman for 25 years. We met, I used to teach his daughter violin about 25, when was she born?
No, she was born about 25 years ago.
25 years ago. Yeah.
Almost that long.
So I've known Jerry forever, and I've been playing with the Bach Choir for many years. And the last time we played Bach B minor Mass was in 2010.
So I wanted to start by asking you both. Bach is a composer we deal with all the time. How did you get exposed to Bach at first?
Well, I think for string players, Bach is like the foundation. It's like the Bible or the Torah of classical musicians. And whenever I get into university soon, I ask them, which Bachs have you learned? And we always have to do Bach. It's like I don't know why, it's just a tradition, I guess. And it gives you a foundation about phrasing and musicality, and I think it's a great place to start. And
Samantha, what about singers? What's the relationship?
I didn't have the chance to perform Bach music while I was in the APA, the Academy for Performing Arts in Hong Kong. After I graduated, I got invited to sing in many concerts, Bach's concerts. And then I think from there I started to know this guy better. And you got to learn, it's a core foundation for them. And then I think for us it's quite the same as well. It's like you have to go back to the original way of studying. You just have to sit in front of a piano and then to aware of what are you singing and every harmonic change, and you have to be aware of that. Even it's just, sometimes it's only one bar or...
Bach, I would think for a singer presents particular problems because it always seems to me also for wind players, Bach is so completely unforgiving. I mean, there's nowhere to breathe. He doesn't make allowances for human weakness. String players, in a sense, don't have this problem because you can play the instrument without
Right.
breathing, even if you can't really be musical without breathing.
Right.
But for singers especially, does that make Bach more difficult than other composers, or more challenging, or is it just another mountain you have to climb?
Practice makes perfect.
Or as one player once said to me, perfect practice makes perfect.
I would say it's another mountain to climb.
Yeah.
I think it's so difficult because it is a music with so many emotions, so much that sometimes it's overwhelming, but you have to have everything under control. The breathing, you have to really, and then also it depends when you do live performance. What if the conductor suddenly, make the music faster?
Oh, we never do that. So there's the question about Bach and emotion. the emotion in Bach is a result of sort of technical things, of structure, and everything's very calculated, and it's like we're not the ones who are supposed to feel the emotion, but the audience has to.
I like that.
I mean,
There's
how do you feel about that?
I just feel there's less ego and there's less emphasis on the cult of personality, or this whole I love romantic music, don't get me wrong. I love Puccini, I love Brahms, I love Wagner. But with Bach, I feel like there's something pure.
So, Samantha, what do you think?
I think because he puts when he's composing, the text he used is very much from the Bible, right?
Right.
And he put it so perfectly, and he has his own kind of word painting. Like we always hear word painting from Schubert's, Schumann's era, Mendelssohn, but he has his own way, I would say.
Yes.
He's quite avant-garde in a way,
But it reminds me of St. Matthew's Passion. There's an aria in St. Matthew's Passion, violin solo, very famous, called Erbarmedisch.
Well,
it's
she's
everybody loves it, but it is so. It's so powerful and it's so emotional, and it's the text and the music and.
Sometimes people ask me, is that difficult to sing Bach? I would say yes or no, because if you trust your first instinct and then really dive into it, and it's actually quite easy, because
That's
Bach
how I feel too.
has provided so much already. You just have to dig in and then feel it.
Yeah.
You don't have to create a lot of other interpretations,
Right.
I would say.
Yeah, and now that we're older, like when you look at my Bach music from when I'm 10 years old, it has so much stuff analyzed, writing this, writing that, and when I look at it now, I just look at it clean, and you don't, maybe because when it's in you, you don't need to think too much, but actually when I think less, it's more natural. It becomes more natural. I guess the music becomes part of you, and like you said, you can just dive in and just feel it. Then it's actually not that difficult. Actually.
No,
Yeah.
But if you learn it in a very technical way, it can be very difficult. Like I cannot breathe.
That must
here.
be my problem. So, whenever you perform Bach or other Baroque music or early music of any sort, the question always comes up about performance practice and what they call historically informed performance. How do you feel about it?
For me, the first time hearing the sound of a harpsichord, it's very inspiring. I've never heard that sound before. It's just piano sound or a sound of an electrical organ, back in the 90s. It is also very useful for us to have an understanding of the sound, what people are listening back in 300 years ago. Personally, I would like as many people as possible to experience Bach, because it is a once-a-lifetime experience, especially something like the St. Matthew Passion or B minor Mass. So if you really want to keep the historical informed performance, you only have 30 players plus singers, and then only 30 of them can experience that, and the audience, of course. But why don't we try to approach more people nowadays?
Yeah, and I think you change yourself in the way you like to perform Bach. Like for example, when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, it was trendy we all used the Galamian edition Bach, which is the fingerings are there. It's very romantic. It's very almost inappropriate now when I look back. And just yesterday I was teaching, and I said to my student, "This fingering is disgusting. Who put that there?" And then he said, "Oh, I just copied the photocopy you gave me." And I said, well, "That's my part." And then I checked. I didn't believe him. I checked. It was in fact. So 20, 30 years ago, I played differently and I had different taste. But I think performance practice, maybe 300 years ago, I think they all played in tune. I believe that, even it's different pitch. So I think intonation and I think phrasing. But I did see some Baroque performances where they do a little bit slide, a little bit expression, and whatever works. I think what the most important thing is that you play from your heart, and that you can really show people how much you love it. And that's really the most important thing about all music, I think. I mean, of course, performance practice is also valuable, but the bottom line is the love that you feel and that you want to communicate.
A lot of people approach these questions, performers and also audience, approach these questions from the point of view of what is done, what is it that we do, whereas what's really important is what the audience receives.
Right, yeah.
We're all doing this, and maybe sometimes we have to remind ourselves that we're all doing this so that the audience receives
the message.
Or has an experience,
Yeah.
hopefully a transcendental experience.
Yeah.
And so it's easy to get bound up in the little details of this ornament or that ornament, or whether we play at 440 or 430 or 415 or whatever it is. And as long as we always keep the audience in mind, we should be okay.
Absolutely.
And speaking about the audience, and it's very different. Because nowadays, audience, they go to concert hall, or they go to recital hall to listen, to pay to listen. But it's totally different context. And back in those days, they going to the church every Sunday for 4 hours. Yeah, it's a big deal.
Attention spans are totally different.
Exactly. But nowadays you have people coming in and coming out, or they are reading newspaper, or then when someone is singing and then they're gone. So or the other way around. Yeah. So
that's interesting.
back in those days, it's not really a performance.
Yeah, that's true.
And then Bach actually, what I've read, it's he printed out like 600 of copy of text for the public, just that they can join in when they are doing the singing. So it's completely
because he was using, maybe not in the B minor mass, but in many of the cantatas, he was using tunes that people were familiar with.
Yes.
Chorale melodies from Martin Luther's time.
And it makes me wonder, how did the audience feel when they went to church? Like, were they like, "This is great music"? I mean, I don't.
If only we could know. That's the one thing we can never know.
What they thought of it and how they felt, and we gotta go to church so we can hear this great music by Bach. I mean, maybe it was just part of their daily life,
and at that
part
time,
of their life.
I mean, that time is a theocracy society, and nowadays people
individualism.
more individualism. So it's more closer to
Netflix and sports
Yes,
games.
exactly.
But actually, that again leads us to another question, which has to do with spirituality. You, Samantha, you touched on it in that in a theocracy where everybody is kind of presumably thinking in the same direction. But we live in a very different world now, and maybe even the majority of people aren't religious, and we're dealing with music that is very much religious in some form or another. Does that in some way come into your performing of this music?
My father was a Lutheran Christian, but our family is not particularly religious. But then I think because Bach has written all this music to God, and then every religious, they have their own God. They are all asking you to be a good human being. So I think my direction is on this. You just perform with pure emotion and heart.
I think everyone has their own religion or spirituality, but they can still be touched because the idea of Bach is that, like you said, it's about being a good person and having a good heart. And I think everybody, no matter what the religion is, can relate to that.
So we hope that these few minutes together have made you want to come and hear the Bach B minor Mass.
This is a Hong Kong Bach Choir 50th anniversary concert.
The box office is open and tickets are on sale now, so we really hope that you can join us to hear the wonderful B minor Mass and we can share the music together. Thank you.